Hello guys, and welcome back to Commander, the Great War with our Entente playthrough. Winter has set in, and it has surely slowed down our great offensive, which has brought us further into the war than the Entente ever got in 1914, and certainly further than they got probably all the way into 1917, maybe even into 1918, because that's really when the Entente turned it around. We've reclaimed most of Belgium. Brussels is surrounded. The Germans here are trapped. We cannot really do anything because it is the winter, except hold our line, however. The Germans have retreated behind this river and are setting up a line of defense now that their attempt to stop me from surrounding Brussels has failed. Eventually, Belgium will be back in this fight, and I have some plans for their likely meager and currently morale-less soldiers. Serbia is hanging in there. The fighting has kind of slowed down around Serbia, thankfully, but unfortunately, something like 20 turns until Bulgaria gets in there. If Serbia lasts longer than real life, Bulgaria will join to swoop that down. Russia has reclaimed, or claimed, I guess, Eastern Prussia more than they ever did in the real war, and is holding the line against Austria and in Poland. Pretty impressive results. Big naval battles happening, and that's where we will turn our attention to first. We've been convoy hunting lately, which has meant a couple of our areas have been not too greatly defended. This Norway passage especially, which I have just learned the hard way, this is where a convoy comes from. And I learned this because 2 German light cruisers have popped out in order to challenge me over this convoy because they desperately need the points. And now that we've seen how beneficial having a convoy reach your country can be, we know that we cannot let this convoy reach Germany. So I'm probably going to utilize this force here that has been blocking off this strait, I guess, leading through Denmark, which I believe the Germans can traverse. I really don't know, but they are the least consequential ones to set to this task. And seeing as we're only dealing with some light cruisers, it shouldn't be too bad. All the German submarines seem to be up by the Russians, and we'll deal with the Russians in our own sweet time. So really the dreadnoughts are best suited for the task of actually challenging these light cruisers here. So let's go ahead and move the lead dreadnought here so the buffs also extend to this armored cruiser, which is now going to need repairs due to the enemy ambush. Move the other dreadnought forward, and we can see we're going to have amazing results thus far. We do also have a armored cruiser, which I forget if these are necessarily better than light cruisers. 13 attack versus 14 attack, 22 defense versus 24. Oh, that's high. 22 versus 21. They're actually pretty fucking similar, except that light cruisers are much better against submarines, whereas armored cruisers are not. Of course, our armored cruisers are also only level 1. Our light cruisers are level 2. I really don't know what determines levels anymore, and I don't think it's unit advancement the more I think about it. It may be. Or maybe it's just like a nationality-based thing. I'm not sure, but I do know I will send this armored cruiser around, let's say this way, so it's pretty up front in combat. We'll send a light cruiser here. And then the other 2 light cruisers will serve as more of a screening force. One will go here. One will go here to block off any submarines that might come this way. Not that I think that there are any submarines willing to do so. So the pass stays blockaded, and yet we can deal with this immediate threat. I'm going to start by utilizing my dreadnoughts, as they'll just be the most efficient here. Of course, getting rid of these light cruisers aren't necessarily going to take care of the convoy, and that's what we really need to stop, but 2 German light cruisers down is a pretty good deed. The price of a light cruiser is 40, and as far as I'm aware, you get roughly the price of 2 light cruisers from these things. The manpower bonus is of course very important as well, and you get a fuck ton of manpower by the looks of it as well. I don't know if Germany gets manpower. I know that the United Kingdom and France get manpower. I'll assume it's the same. So this thing still needs to die, but the light cruisers guarding it need to certainly die first. So we're going to open fire with our dreadnoughts. I expect nothing but good results here. We are using them to weaken the enemy force so that our other units can have some maybe better luck against them. Let's start by going after this one with the armored cruiser, since armored cruisers are overall less valuable. So far we've done only amazing results. We've only lost one armored cruiser strength point so far. We're going to send the light cruiser in to finish off this enemy light cruiser. Pretty good results. That leaves one light cruiser remaining, though I don't think it will be very keen to fight for very long. I will not use this armored cruiser to fight it. Rather, I will use it on the convoy to do what damage I can currently, which only turns out to be 1, but 1 is better than none. That pretty much solves this over here, unless I want to redistribute some forces from here, which I could. I might. I'll think about that. First, we're going to look over at the Russian front, which we have a threatened pre-dreadnought to worry about, as 2 German subs have showed up to fight us. We have an enemy pre-dreadnought with a commander here, currently making our lives a little difficult. My dreadnought is doing pretty well, so I'm going to actually move it up, impart some more bonuses, gain some more bonuses, and see if we can just sink outright this enemy pre-dreadnought. And we can. It is dead. Now, the submarine here is still a problem, but luckily we can scramble this pre-dreadnought into a, well, port so that it can repair. And repairing is usually not too consequential for ships by the looks of it. Now, the submarines are still out here. If I remember correctly, they were guarding a convoy, and I can't remember if we sank it or not. Under the assumption that we did, I'm just going to move forward like I guess I otherwise would. Let's take the British submarine here and move it as far forward as it can get, which is right up to here. No, I did not sink it. Okay. Well, I have a submarine next to their submarine. That's fine. We need to sink this now. There's a couple ways I can go about this. Let's start by, of course, utilizing some submarines. First off, we have a British submarine that is in a very good position to deal with this. It will only deal 2 damage, but we can pretty much completely blockade this area from this enemy here. So I'm going to move the Russian sub forward as well. We will open fire with the Russian submarine. Deal 2 damage. British submarine, deal 3 damage. Pretty good damage so far. Our Russian ships are doing pretty well. The enemy submarines don't seem to be threatening them too much. Submarines certainly aren't threatening any dreadnoughts. The armored cruiser may be in a different position, but I'm not too worried about the armored cruiser overall. It can stay pretty close to its ports, and with so many screening submarines, you know, the Germans don't even have the Navy to deal with us anymore. They only have submarines, and that's not going to be valuable very much against these bigger ships. It can be, but staying so close to our ports, we're pretty safe, because we can escape, because their submarines simply cannot stop us from escaping. So I'm going to go ahead and march this armored cruiser down south, and I'm going to use it to finish off this enemy convoy. Pretty big blow to Germany's economy right there, and their overall capability in the war. Another convoy down. We need to keep killing these convoys. Now, that pretty much takes care of the entire Russian fleet and Russian theater. I'm going to finish repairing this British submarine that has been repairing over here. I believe these 3 submarines the British have here should be more than sufficient for now. Hopefully, we don't need to keep all 3 here, but I do know that we actually have another British submarine ready to deploy. And we have 2 routes now that need to be maintained by submarines, one of them being in the south over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to deploy this British submarine into the channel, and it will be solely responsible for guarding this area, so I can get these pre-dreadnoughts back up northeast, and that they can team up with an armored cruiser in keeping this little area defended. I want the light cruisers closer up here in case the German submarines try to escape. Of course, they can probably escape through here, which I have no way to really stop them from doing, but, you know, we want more ships up here in general. So one submarine will watch over this area. It should be more than enough, honestly. If I need any more ships, you know, they're not going to get past my blockades. Let's put it that way. No matter what I have down here, they're not going to get past my blockades. Of course, I would love to have 2 submarines here instead of just 1. We can see what we can do about that. So moving along, we will send the pre-dreadnoughts up in a little mini battle fleet. Again, I would love to do something about this merchant convoy. I don't want it just rushing around as it obviously could, but I don't want to abandon this area. Of course, our setup here would be pretty hard for them to get around, so I think I'll spare a dreadnought to go north and help deal with this convoy and also further block it off. Okay, we dealt good amount of damage to it. I could maybe spare a couple more ships, maybe another armored cruiser. These aren't too consequentially important. And bam, we sunk the convoy. That is the most important thing I could have done there, and I have done it. I don't know what to think about any German submarines. I will go ahead and move this light cruiser to this southern point rather than keeping it up north. I feel like that's better as a screening process. Next turn we will get this armored cruiser sent back down here likely, and the dreadnought, and finish this off with this fleet. Send the 2 armored cruisers here to repair. Replace the armored cruiser that was in the blocking fleet, you know, reorganize 1 armored cruiser with these 2 pre-dreadnoughts. Got to focus on getting more submarines out. Going to deal with that. We do have a British plane that we can deploy, and I wanted this for France, but I also have another one being made for Egypt. I think that given the situation in France, I will keep this one in France where I intended to put it. So it's going to go just right over here next to London for now is where it's going to deploy. We also have a airship ready to deploy as well, and I mainly intended to use this for ASW purposes. I'm not entirely sure where to put it. It has a pretty long range, as I remember. Let's check the range on it. It can attack... where's the range? 16 hexes out, as opposed to fighters, which can only go 5. So a fighter could attack across the channel, no problem. An airship could go, you know, let's just put this into perspective. If I put it next to Norwich, or Norwich, got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16... Airships on the eastern coast of the UK could attack things in this area, certainly, no problem, and help cover the coast. Wow, that's actually really fucking useful. We could definitely try to strategically place these. We also have up this area by Aberdeen, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Yeah, wow, man. We have a lot of capability using airships for ASW purposes, especially as the British. Of course, it looks like the Russians could use a couple of these as well, because I can't necessarily get British airships. I plan on going a little heavier into Russian airships, or air power in general. Unfortunately, Russia's kind of by itself, and it has to do everything, rather than being able to focus on certain roles like I have done with the British. But airships on the coasts of the UK can certainly prevent the enemies from mobilizing a large submarine force outside of the little safe space over here. Just right now, I don't have much of a way to deal with the submarines here except try to use my submarines against them. But that would be an interesting back and forth, not very effective battle. If I can get even 1 airship, 1 Russian airship, that would actually be pretty game-changing. So let's just deploy this British one next to Norwich. Balloon Corps formed. While the common soldier may be tempted to apply, one must remember there is nothing cushy about life in the Women's Auxiliary Balloon Corps. Really? That's an interesting historical tidbit there. I did intend to buy a bomber with the Russians. That was my little secret plan to do after hitting 10 ammunition production with the Russians, but I think I will go ahead and produce an airship for them. If they had just at least 1, it would be so valuable in dealing with these submarines. So I'll go ahead and purchase one. That'll use a good bit of their resources and take 5 turns, but it should come in handy. In Serbia, there's not a whole lot to say. I've repaired a unit. Not really going to do anything here. It's winter. Attacking is just suicide. We can just take the opportunity to sit back, recover efficiency, as the enemies are surely doing. And, you know, they've weakened this whole front anyway. But we can't take advantage of it due to the whole situation with winter, of course. So I'll sit on my ammo. I'll sit on my points. We don't really have the points to pump out another infantry. I could get 1 more. Honestly, I could get 1 more. But it would keep my production to literally just 1 production point a turn. And seeing as our production lowers, as the manpower lowers, and Serbia, I doubt is going to get any reinforcements, I think I'll avoid that and just sit on what points I have for now. It's hardly ticking up anyway. Let's take a look at Egypt. You know, we went on the offensive here. The enemy's pretty much repaired through it. Their efficiency's hurt. Our efficiency's hurt. Their front isn't too great. I'm just going to repair the units here. We're going to sit down, we're going to recover some efficiency, dig some bare bones entrenchments, and hold the line. And I'm getting another infantry made to fully man this front as well, now that the British have such a good supply of just things to be able to man an entire front down here by themselves. Of course, entire, quote-unquote, not the largest front currently, and the Ottomans aren't the greatest enemy. They're certainly the weakest link. I still wonder, what would have happened in World War I had Italy actually honored their alliances and stayed with the Triple Alliance rather than joining the Triple Entente and thus making the formation of the Central Powers with the Ottoman Empire? I still really do wonder how that would have gone, because I feel like Italy would have been much better for the Central Powers to have than the Ottomans. And I wonder if the Ottomans would have joined the war in that case. And if they did, on whose side? It's interesting to think about. Over in France, we're going to pretty much stay on the defensive almost everywhere. I'm going to shuffle some troops around and try to dig in and let my efficiency come back, which has already been gravely hurt by the small conflicts we've had for the very beginning of winter. This corps will retreat back to Strasbourg, where it's going to maintain a probably permanent defensive position for the time being. I'd like to keep a corps on every city if possible, of course. Real shame that I can't produce more small garrisons. Right, these are garrisons, not corps. Fuck. Because the garrisons themselves are more expensive, more costly, and it would just be nice. I'm going to take these 2 infantry that are freed up and deploy them to the front. This one is going to replace the corps, which, of course, is taking efficiency. This other one's going south to maintain this little part of the front in this forest. It's going to hold a position there. So we have a nice eastern border situation going on here. Should I need more infantry, I could pull some off of Brussels easily. We're just sitting around by Brussels for now anyway. We don't need this many infantry around here. It's just once we get the opportunity to attack, this is where we're going to want the opportunity. For now, I'm trusting part of my front entirely to a cavalry unit. My entire northern part of this eastern defense really isn't so good. I'm cautious to actually do anything here. I'd love to move the artillery up to this spot, but I want to give these 2 units an area to retreat just in case they get fucked up so that they don't get deleted. So I'm instead going to actually put this RD on the train and send it into Belgium so it can help us take Brussels. I think it would be very, very useful in Brussels. So we're going to go ahead and train that up there. Train or walk, it's still going to claim an efficiency point, so, you know, shrug. This also has me thinking we could definitely now use another artillery piece for France. It would certainly be very handy. We unfortunately cannot afford one right now, and we also don't have the ammo production I was hoping. Our income overall for France isn't the greatest. However, I know there's a French convoy out there. Here it is, and it's on the way. When that reaches, we'll get a nice little boost of supplies, and unfortunately, I think that's the only one. There may be a second one on the way somewhere, but France is not going to get as many of these as Great Britain is. Surely their empire is not as vast nor as rich as Great Britain's, so we'll just have to make do, sit back and wait. But we'll definitely need a second artillery at some point to cover the whole front, ideally at least 3, but we'll have to go about this as we can. And once this can get pounding away at Brussels, it will get pounding away. I'm just going to use the British fighter for supporting them up there. The French fighter is simply going to stay where it is right now and probably target some enemy planes, honestly. Engage in some dogfights. It doesn't seem too hindered by the winter. So let's go ahead and attack this one. I mean, look at them. 6 efficiency, 6 power overall. We're fully rested and we have like an ace pilot. I guess that's what the commander is. We're going to go ahead and attack. We lost nothing, not even efficiency. We dealt 1 damage. I mean, that's better than nothing, right? That's damage they have to repair. That's less resources for them. I'll take it. Even a little victory is still a victory in a war like World War I. Even the Brits are in a position where they just don't have the points to necessarily do anything, really. But a convoy has just arrived at port, so next turn Great Britain will get another big influx of production points and manpower, and we will put that to use. We need, you know, another submarine, maybe some more airships. I want another fighter, probably, for the French front, so I have 3. We'll see how it goes. I was already making a fighter for down here, and artillery for down here. They have a lot more stuff. I'm assigning them a lot more responsibility since I see how much points and value they're going to have. The Russian front, of course, is still stretched thin. We're building an airship right now, and really that's all we could afford to build. They don't have the biggest income in the world, the Russians. They don't have convoys to boost them up. Their income is definitely greater and their manpower is extensive, but they have an entire front against both major powers to cover, and the major powers both have a lot of means to cover it. So we're going to, for now, just repair some garrisons that are on the front that need to just sit down and do nothing for a little bit. We're going to take this garrison we moved last turn to here. We're going to move it into this position where this garrison was chased off from to have it take its place. You know, I don't believe they'll stay very offensive because anytime they attack, they're losing efficiency just like we would. And we're going to stay pretty defensive here as well. We don't really have the mobility, and now that we see what kinds of troops are over here to do any flanking anything over here currently, certainly not with probably winter mobility restrictions as well. So we're just going to sit defensively and let everyone recover down south, dealing with the Austrians and any Germans on their front, which there are Germans on their front. I believe there's one German. Von Hindenburg is here. The Ottoman front is quiet, and I hope it maintains that quiet, as we're not going to produce any more troops for down here for now, because we are not going on the offensive here, because I need every little thing I can to keep the pressure up on the two main enemy powers. Otherwise, they may recover, they may gain strength, and we know the Western Entente isn't really necessarily ready to handle the full force, but they're not ready to handle the full force of these two powers, which is why in real life they didn't until the US joined the war, because even with Russia falling, they still needed the US to be able to really turn things around. Now Königsberg is going to fall this turn. Let's get that right out of the way. Königsberg is falling this turn, and it will be amazing. We will finally have all of Eastern Prussia, not just most of it. So we're going to use the armored train, because I just feel like that's the best unit to use for this, to just stomp out all life in Königsberg. We unfortunately lost one, but we wiped out the rest of everything in Königsberg. There you go, mission accomplished. Let's take this garrison and march it right into Königsberg, its new home. Königsberg's fallen. The German Empire's taken a massive blow when the Allied forces managed to take control of the capital city of Königsberg. Eastern Prussia is now fully mine. We have claimed all of it. That is amazing. We have a lot of rest and recovery that we have to do for our forces up here. And any kind of movement or redeployment right now is, well, it's not the greatest. Let's put it that way. It's unfortunately limited because we will lose efficiency just by moving. And a lot of these troops have lowered efficiency from all the fighting anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and repair all these infantry. All three of them need to sit still for a few turns to recover efficiency anyway. Also going to repair the fighter, not that we necessarily need to, but we do still have some units that we can afford to move around a little bit, at least to maintain some new kind of front. So the line of sight on cavalry goes 3 hexes, so I want to use the cavalry to do some forward recon if possible. I'm going to go ahead and move the cavalry up to this little railway intersection. Ooh, and we can see some big stuff up here, that's for sure. So there is indeed a line that they are maintaining. It has holes in it. It's not as well defended as the Serbian front or as well defended as the Western front. You can see they're stretched, and that's good. I'm only just sad that due to the winter they have all the time to recover that they have, because I can't maintain my forward momentum now, unfortunately. The final moves we will make this turn are to move Brusilov up to the front to extend his little buffs to everyone around and get him closer into position. And my railroads don't currently extend the capacity this far, probably because we just took Königsberg. So we are going to march the artillery forward as far as we can get it for now as well. This infantry, which is, I believe, recovered from previous engagements now, is going to move south along the rail line next to the armored train, and ideally I'm going to place it here to finish our front line and maybe even push in on theirs into this open grassland if they're not going to man it once we get the chance to next turn. I don't think there's anything else for me to do, so we're about to go ahead and end turn here and hope that their turn is just as eventless as ours, albeit our eventless turn had some good naval battle victories all over, and we took the city of Königsberg, so Now, hopefully their morale's shaken and hopefully their resources are dwindling by now. Alright, so let's hit that end turn button. Let's see how this goes. Alright, so they're pressing the attack again. Ooh, the Ottomans are arriving with force. This is the last thing I wanted them to do. They're pushing in all directions with 3 different garrisons, an army. Moving troops along their line in the east and in the west. Remember, every movement is costing them an efficiency point as I understand it. They're using planes to strafe and dealing some minor damage. They've just emptied that western front. What are they doing? What plan could they possibly have here? Trying to do more strafing on the BEF. Where are all their troops going? What the hell? They're making it so hard not to keep trying to push forward because they keep redistributing their troops in stupid ways. Anzac arrives in Egypt. The Australian and New Zealand Army Corps was a First World War Army Corps of the Mediterranean Expeditionary Force that was formed in Egypt in 1915 and played a major role, wrong spelling of role, during the Battle of Gallipoli. Nice. So we just got a free infantry unit down here. That kind of makes pointless the infantry I was making, but eventually this front is going to open up and we will need more than 3 infantry up here anyway, so shrug, I'll take it, right? I would have preferred to know that that was coming. So I like events, right? Events are nice, these scripted events, but you never know how historical scripted events are going to work. Like, you know history, but you don't know how the game is going to treat them. So it makes irrelevant some of the points I just spent. Ideally, these points would have better been spent elsewhere than putting an infantry here. You know, better been spent on a submarine or something where I more imminently need it. So that's kind of annoying, but hey, again, better than nothing, I guess. Let's take a look around at what they've done. This front line is still manned, but it still has holes in it. They've overall pulled back more. I don't know where they're redistributing a lot of these troops. Even this still has holes in it, and they haven't moved anything in or out of the Serbian front either. It's a very confusing thing they've done here. I wonder what their... I wonder what their plan is, but it's an AI. It doesn't have a plan. It's just reacting in what it considers the most efficient thing to do in a turn. You know, like how there's corporations and they care more about quarterly reports than the long-term progress or productiveness of their company, their product? It's kind of like that. That's how this AI seems to work excessively. But that was a nice, good turn. We're pretty much at the end of this episode anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and end this here. So hope you guys are enjoying the series. Let me know what you think about how the war and the series is going. Any advice you might have, any specific units you might want me to give a name to. Since I have an extra minute here, I'm going to go ahead and say that if you'd like to support me or this channel, please consider going to the Patreon in the description below. For $2, you can get access to a bunch of deleted scenes and even get weekly shoutouts, which I've announced in my video that released just yesterday, if you want to go check that out. I have a community server too that you can join in the description below, where you can talk, hang out with me, chat, join me in any multiplayer game you ever see me streaming or playing, even suggest games to me, maybe just hang out in a voice call and talk for a bit. This server also has a built-in system similar to Patreon if you'd rather subscribe there rather than Patreon or would like another option. You can also hit that join button under the video to become a YouTube member as another way to support me if you would like to do so. Or just for free, if you haven't already, you can hit the subscribe button, hit like, leave a comment. These are all free, easy ways to support the channel. For now though, thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.